Linux is an operating system for your computer, but unlike Windows or Mac, Linux is not a corporation. It's not a product. It's a community of developers and users that come together to create an operating system that is designed to put the user first. You'd be surprised how many people have never heard of Linux, or if they have heard of Linux, they think it's something for computer nerds or something that is exclusively for the server room. That's absolutely not true. Linux is for anyone who wants to take the time to learn how to use it. The main reason that anybody should consider using Linux in today's computing world is security and privacy. If you install Linux on your computer, no registration or activation will be required. You never have to give anyone your personal information. Linux is inherently secure. It was based on Unix, and Unix was originally designed to run on large mainframe computers that had hundreds or thousands of users. The security is built right into the system. You'll have no need for third-party antivirus software and no need to pay subscription fees to keep that software up to date. All the applications on a Linux machine are updated at the same time. You might be familiar with having to manually update things like Flash and Java on your computer and your web browser. In Linux, it doesn't work that way. All of the installed software is updated as soon as those updates are available, which means that as long as your system is up to date, you are running the safest Linux installation you possibly can. Also, when you perform those manual updates on Windows boxes, a lot of times you have to be very careful not to check the box that wants to install junk software on your computer. In Linux, there is no unwanted adware or piggyback junkware. It's frowned upon. Most of the software that you would install on your Linux system comes from what are known as repositories, which are online websites with collections of software that are maintained by Linux distributions for use by their users. Full security support is guaranteed for your hardware pretty much forever. Most Linux distributions are available in what is known as long-term support releases, and those support terms can be as much as 5 years in length. At the end of the support cycle, you will be able to upgrade to the latest version absolutely free. Some newer distributions of Linux offer what is known as a rolling release, which means that you install it once and it's continuously updated for the life of your hardware. There will never be a need to upgrade or reinstall. And no matter what kind of hardware you have, chances are there's a version of Linux out there that offers fully updated support for that at any given time. Microsoft and Apple have recently artificially ended the lives of some of their older products. They just said, we're not going to support this anymore. This is something that you will never, ever have to worry about happening in Linux. Another good reason to use the Linux operating system is economics. Linux is free. There are hundreds of distributions of Linux that you can download absolutely free and install on your system and never have to pay a dime. Linux works on older hardware, which means that machine that's sitting in the corner that's running Windows XP that's marginally useful today can become a fully useful machine with Linux. Linux can breathe new life into old hardware because you can take a machine that's up to 10 years old and you can put Linux on it and get the latest updated software. Of course, older hardware is not going to perform as well as newer hardware, but at least you can use it to get stuff done. There's so much free software to choose from in the Linux world. You probably will be able to find a solution to get whatever job you need to get done for absolutely free. And you can try as many different kinds of software as you want to before you finally come on to one that will do what you want it to do. You can load Linux on as many computers as you like. You can download it, put it on all of your machines, give that install media, whether it be a DVD or a USB stick, to your friends, and they can put it on their machines, and then they can put it on their friends' machines. The sky is the limit. If you redistributed Windows or Mac OS X that way, they'd call you a pirate and they'd probably put you in jail. Documentation and community support is available 24 hours a day on the internet for absolutely free. Forums, wikis, web pages that tell you how to deal with issues and how to set up software on your machine are available just by searching on the web. Another really good reason to use Linux is that you can make it your own, customizations and lots of choices. There are hundreds of Linux distributions to choose from, and each one of those distributions is geared to a certain kind of user. And with a little bit of research, you can find one that will work best for you. And many of those distributions offer several desktop environments. If you install Windows or Mac OS, you're stuck with a computing experience that they want you to have. In Linux, if you don't like the desktop, you can change it. There are over 30,000 free applications available in the Ubuntu repositories. Therefore, you have lots of choices. If you're trying to get a job done, chances are you'll have 10 or 15 different applications to choose from to do it exactly the way you want to do it. And once you find exactly what will work for you, you can even go so far as to modify applications to do exactly what you need. If you're somebody who is learning how to read code and write code, the source code for most free applications is available just for the downloading. You can look at it, you can modify it, you can change it, you can make it your own and continue to use that. That is something that you absolutely cannot do with proprietary software. Freedom is fun. If you're somebody who started out with computers and you used to have a lot of fun using your computer, and now most of your time is concerned with fending off viruses and malware or dealing with system crashes, you'll find that coming to Linux is a liberating experience. Many of the people that I've worked with over the last few years have told me how much fun they're having working with their computers. You can create your own computing experience, and you can share that freely with your friends in the Linux community. You can post videos, you can write blog posts, you can tell people exactly what you're doing with your computer and get lots of positive feedback. You can help make Linux better by doing just that. And you can do things like file bug reports with developers. Let them know exactly what you think about their applications. You'd be amazed at how accessible a lot of these people are, and it's a lot of fun to interact with people who are into the same things that you are. Linux is a lot of fun. And finally, Linux is easy. Modern desktop environments are simple and streamlined. They're designed to make learning the new system as easy as it possibly can be. There's a myth going around that Linux is a difficult operating system which is hard to learn. That's not true. Linux is just different. Nobody became a Windows Power user overnight. So Windows Power users who expect to sit down in front of a Linux machine and understand exactly how everything works are misleading themselves. You are starting over. It's not so much a matter of learning Linux, it's having to unlearn all of the stupid workarounds that you're used to dealing with in the Windows environment. Mac users usually come to Linux and have less problems simply because the Mac system is also based on Unix and there's a lot of similarities. However, keep in mind that no matter what you're currently using, you're going to have to take it slow. It might become frustrating. Take your time, but I'll tell you what, once you get it all figured out and you realize how simple and straightforward Linux is, you'll agree with me when I say that Linux is very easy. If you sit a kid or a complete computer novice down in front of a Linux machine, it's amazing to watch how quickly they catch on and just how little time it takes for them to start doing real things with the computer. It's a fun thing to watch. In Linux, hardware is pretty much plug and play. If you plug it in and it recognizes it and it works, you're good to go. If it doesn't, then it probably is not going to work. You're not going to spend a lot of time tangling with drivers in Linux. If you have an old printer that doesn't work with Linux, buy a new one. Many new HP and Brother printers have excellent Linux support. Plug them in, turn them on, that's it. You don't have to do anything to configure it to get it going. Most PCs that were built within the last 5 years will run Linux. Some of the later machines need a little bit of BIOS modification. Most of the people I work with, They're amazed at the fact that they can install something like Linux Mint and every piece of software and hardware in their system works with no configuration. It pretty much is plug and play. With most Linux distributions, you're going to get a collection of software that's going to allow you to get to work immediately. Many distributions of Linux come with a full Office suite. They come with an email client. They come with web browsers. They come with all of the utilities that you're going to need to get stuff done on your computer. They also come with things like music players and video players, pre-installed, pre-set up. Load your data into the machine and start working with it. Once a machine is installed and configured, you'll find that there is very low maintenance required with a Linux system. Unlike Windows, you don't need to defragment the hard drives. You don't need to do that. While you can defragment Linux hard drives, the file system, ext4, is much better than the file system that's used in Windows at making sure that files are stored in such a way that they do not fragment. Unless you're storing large video files or your hard drives are really full, you should never have to defrag the system. A lot of the scheduled maintenance is already set up and works in the background. Pretty much the only thing that you have to do is install updates. And by the way, if your computer comes with a solid state drive, guess what? You will not have to defragment it at all. It's something you don't have to worry about in Linux. If you do end up trashing your system or you have a major problem, as long as your data is backed up, you can reload the entire system in just a couple of hours. Try doing that with a Windows system. Usually that takes days to get all of the drivers and the software reinstalled because it has to be done one at a time. Linux comes with most of the software you already need, and as long as you keep a list of the software that you have installed on the system, going back out and reinstalling it is just a matter of a few clicks. No big deal at all. Excellent support is available for free, especially with large distributions like Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Fedora, and even Arch Linux have wonderful forums and wikis that will help you through pretty much any problem that you can imagine coming across. And like I said, it's absolutely free. And also, support is available if you want to pay for it as well. I offer IT support for a small fee. I will help you get Linux installed on your machine. One of the beautiful things about Linux these days is that if you just don't want to install the operating system, you don't want to start with an old machine, you don't have to. Many companies now offer machines that come with Linux pre-installed. System 76 and Dell offer machines installed with Ubuntu, and there are many machines that come with Linux Mint pre-installed. In other words, take it out of the box, create a user account, and you're good to go. You're ready to use Linux. Number 6, Linux is the future. Linux already runs your smart devices. If you have a smart TV, if you have an Android phone, if you have a DVR or a satellite receiver or a Roku box or any of these kind of devices, or if you have a router for Wi-Fi in your home, it's currently running Linux. The internet runs on Linux. Facebook runs on Linux. All Google services run on Linux. Most of the cloud is based on Linux. And large corporations and governments use Linux. There was a recent news story where AT&T is switching all of its enterprise desktops to Ubuntu Linux. And once you learn Linux, you'll find that you'll be able to get a better job because you know Linux. Just do a search. Look for Linux Administrator Job or Linux Computer Job, and you'd be surprised how many good jobs come up in your community. There is a paradigm shift in the PC world. We're getting away from proprietary operating systems and moving toward open source. And Linux is the gateway that will get you to that future. Also, we have lots of new devices coming along. There's the Internet of Things, there's robotics, there's drones, there's cars that drive themselves. And most of these devices run Linux. It's definitely worth the time to learn how to use Linux.